The thing in the walls. I moved into this house 3 weeks ago. It was cheap, too cheap. I should have known there was a reason why. The first night, I told myself it was nothing. Old houses make noise. The wood contracts, pipes knock, that kind of thing. But these noises, they weren't normal. It started with scratching, faint at first, like a mouse clawing inside the walls. Scratch, scratch. I laughed it off, bought traps, but the traps stayed empty, and the scratching got louder. By the second week, it wasn't just scratching. It was moving. Something clawing from one end of the wall to the other. Fast. Too fast. At night, when I tried to sleep, it would start near the head of my bed, then race along the wall down the hall into the living room. I told myself it was rats, maybe even a raccoon stuck inside. But rats don't whisper. The first time I heard it, I thought I was dreaming. A low hiss, right against the plaster. Let me out. I froze. Every hair on my body stood on end. I sat up, listening hard. The house was silent. Then, scratch, scratch, directly behind my headboard. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I tore the room apart. I checked every vent, every crack in the drywall, every inch of the basement. Nothing. But that night, it came back. Scratch, scratch, whisper. Hungry. I tried to ignore it. I put on headphones, blasted music, slept with the TV on, but no matter what I did, I could still hear it. Sometimes the whispers were soft, muffled, like someone speaking from the other side of a wall. Other times, they were clear. Open the wall. Let me see you. By the end of the second week, I was barely sleeping at all. My eyes burned, my head pounded. The walls started to change. Hairline cracks spread across the plaster, like something was pressing from the inside. At night, I swore I saw them bulge, just slightly, like something was pushing against them, trying to get out. One night, I built up the courage to knock back. 3 short taps. For a moment, silence. Then, tap, tap, tap. I almost screamed. Last night was the worst. I woke up to the sound of breathing. Not outside, not in the room. Inside the wall. Shallow, wet, right beside my bed. I held my breath, listening, praying it would stop. And then I heard it, the whisper, but this time it wasn't muffled. It was clear, right in my ear. My turn. The wall split. Right down the middle, the plaster cracked open like rotten wood. A hand slid through, not human, too long, too thin. The skin stretched tight over the bone, nails like claws. It scraped across the floor, feeling, searching. I couldn't move. My body wouldn't respond. The hand groped closer until it touched the blanket at the edge of the bed. That's when I snapped out of it. I bolted. I ran from the room, down the stairs, out the front door, barefoot into the streets. I didn't go back until morning. When I finally worked up the courage to step inside, the wall was whole again. No cracks, no hand, no sign that anything happened. But the floor by the bed, the floor was gouged deep, long scratches carved into the wood. I don't know what's in this house. I don't know why it wants me. All I know is, tonight, I'll hear it again. Scratch, scratch. And sooner or later, it's getting out. Someone broke into my house when I was home alone. I was about 13 at the time, so that would mean this happened around 2009, I think. I'm bad at math. I was home alone one night when my parents went out somewhere. I think it was some work party or something. It involved alcohol, so they had to leave the car at home and take the taxi. I usually enjoyed being home alone at night. Mum would leave pizza money and I could play Xbox all night. It was Halloween break, so I didn't have any school to worry about. The good old days. I remember being in a bit of a zombie phase because I spent most of my nights playing Left 4 Dead and COD 5 Zombies with my friends. Man, I'm telling you, pizzas, snacks, a case of Dr. Pepper, and gaming with the boys? Heaven. Well, something happened one of these nights that messed me up pretty bad, to the point that even now I always double check doors and windows. I never wear both cans of a pair of headphones at once, and I'm still petrified of the dark. That one ruined a few relationships. I was playing alone that night, so I wasn't talking to anyone. I was playing Left 4 Dead, and the music and sounds of the witch used to scare me a little. I was 13, shut up. So every dark corner and noise I heard was already freaky. I had my window open a bit, and I heard what sounded like someone walking up my gravel driveway. I thought it was my parents coming home, but when I looked outside I couldn't see anyone. I remember just sitting in silence for a while with my game paused, trying to listen out for any other sounds, but I didn't hear anything. It was only a few minutes later I heard the trash cans in my backyard falling over. I nearly jumped out of my skin. We didn't really get raccoons or anything, so I started to panic a bit. I looked out the window in the hallway out into my backyard. I couldn't see anything. The trash cans did fall over, but I didn't see any raccoons and it wasn't windy. It was raining a little, but that was it. I couldn't see the back door as the window looked down above the porch and the porch roof blocked my view. There was definitely something happening. I went and stood at the top of my stairs and just stared into the darkness for I don't know how long, hoping that I didn't hear anything. All I could hear was the pitter-patter of the rain and my heartbeat in my ears. As I went back to my room, I heard it. Someone was trying the handle onto the back door. I slowly made my way down the stairs and peeked around the corner into the kitchen. The back door was wide open. My blood ran cold and every hair stood on end. I knew I had to call the police, but the phone was on the wall next to the fridge. In the kitchen. In what was one of the stupidest decisions of my life. I started walking towards the kitchen. It felt like my hallway was a million miles long. My mind was racing with possibilities of what was waiting for me. Was someone going to grab me? Were they going to just stab me or shoot me or something? Every scenario played out in my head, and each one I ended up dead or worse. I finally made it into the kitchen. I tiptoed over to the phone. I lifted it and dialed 911, and that's when I heard it. "Aren't you supposed to be in bed, son?" A voice echoing from the back of the kitchen near the window, a low, gravelly voice. I threw down the phone and ran. I could hear the man running after me. I ran faster than I ever had built towards my front door. As I got to it, it flung open. It was my parents. I ran into my dad's arm and managed to get out through the tears and the panic that someone was in the kitchen. As I looked back towards the kitchen, the man went running through the back door again, and my dad ran after him. My dad came back a minute later and told my mum to call the cops. The cops asked me what happened, but I couldn't give them a description, as I couldn't see him in the darkness. They asked my dad where the guy ran off to, but my dad said that he jumped the fence and ran off into the trees. They never caught him. I've since moved into my own place and fitted every door and window with quality locks. But while I still lived in my parents' house, every time I looked into those trees, I always felt like someone was watching me. I had a bad dream when I was little. On the morning of my 6th birthday, my father opened my bedroom door, sat on my bed, gently laid a hand on my shoulder, looked into my half-present eyes, and said to me, "When you turn 18 years old, I'm going to bludgeon you to death with a tire iron." He leaned down, kissed my forehead, and left for work. That was the last time I saw him. I told my mum what happened, and I told her that I think I had a bad dream about Dad. She didn't say much. She just told me to stay in my room, and she left, and I think I heard her talking on the phone. We never heard from him after that day. No calls, letters, emails, unwarranted visits, nothing. Apparently, he never made it to work that day. His big truck couldn't be found anywhere near our house, or his work, or even anywhere in our town. The police couldn't find him even after filing a missing persons report and sending out search parties. He was nowhere to be seen. He left us. I could only find him in my brain. He was my dad. But he told me that stuff, I think. I was sleeping, and I was 6. It felt like a dream. I was so young, I didn't understand it. Whenever I would talk to my mum about my bad dreams, she just kept telling me it was going to be okay, and not to be scared. I heard her crying sometimes, but she would never show me. Looking back, I don't even know if it was real. It's a haze to me now. I feel like I can only remember the memory of the memory. He had always loved me, and taken care of me, and protected me, and he was a good dad. That's mostly what I remember. I've gone most of my life without him around. I think he would be proud of me. Mum and I wound up a few states from the house where we used to live. My mum remarried last year, and she's always happy when she's with my stepdad. I managed to be in the same high school for 3 years, 3 times as long as I'd been in any school since kindergarten. I was going to graduate in a few months, and I had gotten into a pretty good college a few hours away, and I had pretty good grades, and made a bunch of money at my summer job. Despite him not being there, I still wanted him to be proud. If he could see me, I think he would be. Today, for my 18th birthday, Mum let me take her car to meet up with some friends at a theme park an hour away from our house. I finally got my license a few months ago, and I thought I was ready to make a big drive after practicing for so long in my neighbourhood and in parking lots. All of the practice couldn't prepare me for a flat tyre in the middle of the highway. I think it was some debris from some construction that had recently finished. I called my mum after I realised I ran over something and pulled to the side of the road. I was right. It was a small piece of rebar that had gotten lodged into my front right wheel. I told her what happened, and she told me to call the police to make sure I was safe. She told me she had a spare tyre in the trunk, and she would call her car insurance company to send someone to help me change it. They could call a local towing company, and a mechanic would know how to fix it. I called the police after we hung up, and they said someone would be here soon. I didn't have any experience with car troubles, so I patiently waited for the police and the mechanic. The tow truck just showed up before the police got here, and it looks like the driver is already walking over with a tool in his hand to come change my tyre. Hopefully he'll do it quickly. Something feels off in my house. Feels stupid writing this, but something's wrong in my house. I know it should feel safe here, but it doesn't, and lately it's gotten worse. It started about 2 weeks ago. I came home from work to find the hallway light on. Odd, but I figured I'd just forgotten to switch it off. 2 days later, I woke up at about 4:30 a.m. and saw it on again. This time I was certain I'd turn it off before bed. The darkness usually scares me, so I remember rushing back to my room after flicking the switch. Still, I told myself it was faulty wiring, or my own forgetfulness. Then my neighbour John mentioned something last Saturday that made my skin crawl. He asked if I had someone staying at my place to house it while I was away. I hadn't asked anyone to stay over. If my brother or a friend had dropped by, they would have told me. At the time, I thought maybe John was confused. He's older, forgets things. But it stuck with me. That's when I installed a few CCTV cameras around the house. Just enough to feel safer. For a while, I did. Until last night. I was in bed, scrolling on my phone when I swore I heard footsteps outside my bedroom door. I froze, listened. There it was again, slow, deliberate pacing along the hallway. The old floorboards groaned with each step. It took me a while to gather the nerve, but I eventually crept to the door, my pulse pounding so hard it was almost louder than the noise. By the time I pressed my ear to the wood, the footsteps had stopped. I opened the door anyway. Nothing. I barely slept after that. My mind kept replaying those footsteps, trying to make sense of them. This morning I checked the CCTV footage. The timestamp matched the exact moment I heard them, but the hallway camera showed nothing. No movement, no shadows, just the light switching on by itself, like someone had flicked it right outside my door. I told myself it was a glitch, but when I rewound a little further, I saw something else, something I wish I hadn't. My bedroom door was closed. Then for maybe half a second, the edge of it pulled inwards, as if someone was pressing their ear against it from the other side, and then it eased back into place. I didn't leave my room after that, didn't go back to work. I just sat on my bed with my back against the wall, phone in my hand, staring at the door. Now it's dark again and the hallway light is on. I can see a thin strip of it leaking under the door. I don't want to open it this time. The light hasn't gone off once tonight. I thought about calling someone, but what would I even say? I think someone's in my house, but the cameras say they're not. I can already hear the awkward silence on the other end. Around midnight, I checked the CCTV feed. Every camera worked except the hallway one. Black screen. I refreshed it. Nothing. Then, for a second, it flickered back. Not an empty hallway this time. There was someone standing there. Perfectly still, facing my bedroom door. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then the feed went black again. I don't know how long I sat there before I pressed my ear to the door. They were breathing, slow, measured, like they were matching mine. I started checking the CCTV archives from the last week. Every night, at almost the same time, the hallway camera's cut off. When it comes back, the person isn't outside my door anymore. They're not on any cameras at all. The only place the cameras don't reach is inside my bedroom. The Bite. I never really liked spiders. Didn't hate them either, but I sure as hell didn't want one near me. That night in the shed, I felt the sting on my hand before I even saw it. A sharp prick, like a needle sliding under my skin. When I shook my hand, I saw it scuttle into the shadows. Thick legs, eyes like beads of glass. By the time I stumbled back inside, the pain had already spread up my arm. hot, burning, like my blood was trying to crawl out of my veins. I ran it under the sink, but it only got worse. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I shut my eyes, I felt it. Something moving just under my skin, threads being pulled tight. When morning came, I looked in the mirror and froze. My reflection looked wrong. My eyes seemed darker, wider, and when I opened my mouth, I caught the glint of something sharp pressing against my gums. Small, pointed fangs. My nails blackened, curling at the tips, and from the wound on my hand, something pushed through. Not blood, not bone, silken threads. By the second day, I couldn't walk right. My body wanted to crouch, crawl. The shadows in the corners of the house, they felt like home. Food didn't taste right anymore. Nothing did. Until the fly landed on the counter. I didn't think. My hand shot out too quick, and when I crunched it between my teeth, God help me, it felt good. At night the dreams came. The spider from the shed, but bigger. Standing upright, human-shaped, its eyes glinting in the dark. And every morning I woke up tangled in more silk, my silk. The final change came on a Sunday night. My skin split at the shoulders, and legs pushed through, black, jointed, crawling up the walls. I screamed, but it wasn't human anymore. Max, my dog, stared at me from the hallway, his body stiff, his eyes wide, a growl rumbling deep in his chest. I crawled toward him, silk dripping from my mouth. He bolted through the door into the night. I didn't chase him. I was too busy spinning, weaving my web. Now, I don't leave the dark. Sometimes I catch things. Birds, raccoons, they thrash, then they go still. But it's not enough. I'm hungry, always hungry. And I know, sooner or later, someone will come looking for me. And when they do, they won't leave. Through many eyes. Alex felt that these dreams he was having as of late felt a little too real to him, as if he lived them himself. He wasn't really into the whole past lives thing or reincarnation. That was until one day he woke up with scars on his body. They were surgical scars from a surgery he never remembered having. He decided to ignore it. Maybe it had been from the impressions of the blankets with how he was sleeping, or maybe he scratched himself in his sleep. Alex made an appointment to visit a therapist, a Dr. Calhoun, who also had experience with sleep therapy. Upon meeting, Dr. Calhoun was skeptical about Alex's claims, but became concerned upon seeing the scars, probably thinking that Alex was suicidal. As the nights go on and he continues to dream, they become more immersive. He was a soldier, a cultist, a mother, and a prisoner. More scars appeared on his body. Even objects started appearing in his room. These alternate lives of his began to bleed into each other. to the point where Alex had even woken up mid-conversation one night. Some of these Alexes were becoming aware of each other's existence. A figure who appeared alongside him in these dreams was a woman named Mara. She had been his wife, stalker, and daughter. In each different life he experienced, Mara was sometimes either hostile or affectionate towards Alex. He never knew what to expect or do when he saw her. When Alex wasn't dreaming, he started seeing a strange figure showing up in different places. The cafe he got his morning coffee, his place of work, and in any reflective surface he looked into. With Dr. Calhoun being of little help, he decides to do his own investigation. Discovering old hidden journals in the storage room of his apartment, a closet he hadn't touched since moving into the place, since he didn't have much to begin with or reason to use the space. In one of the boxes, he discovered old journals written in different styles of handwriting, but were all signed with his name. Inside the journals, the entries felt as if they had lived these lives before. It felt like they had lost themselves in some type of way. Had Alex already lived the life he was in now? That was impossible, right? There was no way that it could be true. Maybe these journals belonged to another Alex who lived here before him. That night, as he laid down to sleep, Alex drifted into yet another dream. Another life. Though when he tried to wake up this time, it didn't work. Days had begun to pass as he continued to live this life, panicking that he couldn't get back. Alex began questioning if his own existence was even real. When he finally woke up from this dream, Alex went to talk with Dr. Calhoun, who was acting differently, calling him by different names. Dr. Calhoun shows Alex footage of their meeting, where he said and confessed things he didn't remember saying or doing. When he left, Alex started seeing Mara in the waking world, telling him that he had been sleeping for a long time. He made the decision to stay awake that night to avoid slipping into a past life dream. Alex felt paranoid, seeing strangers that he didn't know walking around his apartment. He closed his eyes, mumbling to himself that this wasn't real. Alex began to drift off to sleep, his eyes beginning to close. When he woke up again, Alex saw solid white walls, a door with a small window, and dim lights above him. He squinted, very confused, to see where exactly he was now. The truth was, Alex was a patient at a mental institution for identity disorder. The records showed that he had been there for years. Dr. Calhoun had always been his doctor, who had kept hundreds of drawings. The various lives that Alex had described, all of them were eerily detailed. When he looked at himself in a reflective surface, Alex saw Mara smiling back at him. He couldn't tell if he was awake or living another life. Alex held his head in his hands, letting out a frustrated scream. Outside the room and down a long hallway is a room with thousands of TVs, showing each and every different patient in their rooms, each one with a different disorder. Dr. Calhoun takes notes on Alex, typing on his laptop as he observes him. He was the most interesting specimen in his collection, and one he was determined to keep. Family had tried reaching out, but he told them Alex was not quite ready to live in society, as he still believed that these other lives still existed, that he tried to become and act like these people. Once he was able to get this under control with the new medication, then just maybe he would release Alex into the world. Though for now, Dr. Calhoun would keep a close eye on him.